Hello guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. My name is Emmanuel Jijong. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, you're welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or you're definitely welcome as well. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how to create your Linux server. We're going to see how you can launch your Linux server using AWS. In my last video, I talked about how to set up a Linux lab environment. I mentioned in my last video that there are two ways you can use to set up your Linux lab environment. I said one way is using your personal computer or laptop or desktop, and another way is using the cloud. And I mentioned in my last video that the cloud is by far my favorite way of setting up a Linux lab environment to practice Linux. So today we're going to see how to create an AWS account, then use that AWS account to launch our Linux server. So without taking much of your time, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need is to create our AWS account. So I'll click right here where it says complete sign up, or click here where it says complete sign up. So whether I click here or here is the same thing. I'm going to click here. It's going to take me to a page that looks like this. Once I'm here, it's going to ask me to sign in, but I don't have an account. So I'll click on create new AWS account, click on that. Then it's going to ask me for a root email address, and I'm going to use this email called labemmanuel5@gmail.com. It's going to ask me for an account name. I'll just call this Linux Lab. That will be the account name. Then I'll click on verify email. So I'm going to say confirm you are you, right? So basically it's going to send me a verification to this email. So if I go here, I will see that AWS has sent me a verification. So I'll click on this, and this will be the verification code. So copy this, come back, put that verification code in here, then click on verify. So as you can see, our email has been successfully verified. Then it's going to ask for a root user password, and it's going to ask to confirm that root user password. So I'm going to put a root user password. Cool. So I just added my root user password, and I also confirmed my root user password. So I'll click to the next step, and it's going to take me right here. So it's going to ask me for some basic personal or business information. The first thing is that it will ask me how do I plan to use AWS? Do I plan to use AWS for business, that's work, school, or within an organization, or do I plan to use it for personal projects? So I'm going to say I'm planning to use this for personal projects. Then it's going to ask me for my full name, so I'm going to put my full name in there. Cool. Then it's going to ask me for my phone number, so I'm going to put my phone number. So that's my phone number. Then it's going to ask me for my address. I'm going to put my address in there. Then I'm going to click on I've read and agreed to the terms of the AWS customer agreement. I'll click on that. Sorry. So I'll click on that. I'll click on continue. So usually what AWS will do is that they will try to verify your identity, and the way they're going to do it, or the way they do it in the US, is that they use your debit card to kind of verify your identity. So they're going to debit $1, then they'll put it back in within 3 to 5 business days. So I'm going to put in this debit card right there. I'm going to put in the month. The month will be July 28. Then I'm going to put in the security code and the name on the card, then the address, and I'll click on verify and continue. Nice. So it's going to say sign up for AWS, confirm your identity. So I'm going to say, okay, send me a text message, and I'll put in my phone number, then I'll hit send. And I'm going to click on verify. I think it should be like P8BC7. So they'll send me a security code right on my phone. So I have it right here. That's 8298. I'll click on continue. And now it's going to ask me for a support plan, right? We just go with the basic, that's free. Then I can complete and continue. And now it says congratulations, you've created your AWS account. So we can now go to something called the AWS console. So when you create your AWS account for the first time, you should see exactly what I'm seeing right here. This is what they call the AWS console. Now, this is not a class about AWS, but it's a class about Linux. So I'm not going to take too much time explaining what the AWS console is. So I will go straight to creating, a Linux server. So as you can see, the first thing I usually like to do is I like to change my region to US East 1. I just like using US East 1, and it takes me, back here. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to use AWS to launch our Linux server, the one we're going to use to practice Linux. And in AWS, there's a service which you can use to, create servers, and that service is called EC2, right? Elastic Compute Cloud. So basically, it's a service offered by AWS that makes it possible for you to create virtual machines in the cloud. And in this case, the cloud I'm talking about is AWS. So the way you access EC2 is you can see it on the console home screen, for example, right here. And if you don't find it, you can always come here, click on this, right? And you come to where it says compute, click on that, and you're going to see EC2 right here. Or you can just search for EC2 like that, and you click on this one right here. So right now, as you can see, we don't have any server that's running. So it's important for you to know that a server on AWS is referred to as an instance. So if I'm talking about an instance, know that I'm referring to a server, right? So as you can see, we don't have any server that's running at the moment. So we would need to create one, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do. So click on this right here that says instances. Click on that. As you can see, we don't have any instance that's running. I want you to click right here where it says launch instances. Then this is where we're going to create our instance. Now, if you're new to Linux, you're new to IT, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed or panic. Just follow, my steps. The first thing is that it's going to ask you for an instance name. So I'm just going to call this lab server. That's how I'm going to call it, lab server. Then it's going to ask you for an application and OS image, right? OS means operating system, right? There's something on AWS called Amazon Machine Images. So you can basically just read about them here. But I'll dive deep into this when I create a course on AWS. So when I create a course on AWS, I'll dive deep into what Amazon Machine Images are. So for now, don't worry about it. So what I want you to do is I want you to come down here and I want you to click on Ubuntu, right? And remember that Ubuntu is a Linux, it's a type of Linux distribution. If you don't know what a Linux distribution is, there's a video on my channel where I talk about what Linux distributions are, and I also talk about the 7 best types of Linux distributions that exist. And the first one I mentioned is Ubuntu, and that's the one we're going to use. So choose Ubuntu. Then where it says Amazon Machine Image, I want you to make sure that it's on free tier eligible, right? So make sure that it's on free tier eligible. So I'm gonna click on that, right? Then I want you to go down, and where it says instance type, so you're going to leave everything here as default, right? Then where it says instance type, I want you to choose T2 micro. As you can see, free tier eligible. Now it's going to ask you for a key pair, right? Or a login. So basically a key is like a password. Without a key, you cannot log in into this server you're creating, right? And I'm going to show you how to use that. As you can see, we don't have any key. So what you want to do is you want to click on create new key pair. So you want to click on that and you want to give your key pair name. So I'm going to call mine Linux lab key, something like that. And the key type will be RSA, leave it on that. Private key file will be .pem, so you want to leave it on that as well. Remember, I'll explain all of this when I create a course on AWS. This is not a course on AWS, rather it's a course on Linux. So put this right here. Make sure you have RSA. Make sure that the private key file format is on .pem and click on create key. As you can see, our key is right here. So our key is around download. So what I usually like to do is I'll just drag this and have it on my home screen, then I'll go back. So this is the key that we're going to use to log in into our server. Then it's going to ask us to do some network settings. Ignore everything here, ignore everything, and click on launch instance. It says successfully initiated launch of instance. So you can click on this instance ID and it's going to take you right here. So as you can see, this is the name of our server. It's called lab server. This is what they call the instance ID, and this is the instance state. So as you can see right now, it's running, right? And this is the instance type. It's a T2 micro, and it says status check is initializing. And what we're going to do is refresh this until we get to a point where everything is fully checked. So I'll just refresh by clicking here. I'll refresh one more time. As you can see, it's taking some time to initialize, but that's fine. The one thing you can do is just click on this instance and it's going to take you right here. So here you have instance summary for this is the ID of our instance and this is the name of that instance. Remember that instances on AWS are servers, right? It's just another name for a server. So right here, we're going to have the instance ID or the server ID. And we're going to have the public IP address of our instance. And we're going to see the state of our instance that's running, right? And if you browse through this page, you can get a lot of information about this server. So what we're going to do next is we're going to connect to this server, right? So to connect to this server, I want you to come right here to where it says connect, right? And if you're here, you can just select your server and you can click on connect, or you can, come right here and you click on connect. So you click on connect, it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. So there are different ways you can connect to an EC2 instance. So you can do what they call an EC2 instance connect. You can do a session manager, or you can do SSH client. So we want to do SSH client. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about what SSH is and how SSH works and how you can use it to connect to your EC2 instance. But let me just show you how it works here. So I'm going to click on, SSH right here. And what I will then do is I will need something called an SSH client. I'll talk about what an SSH client is in my next video, so don't worry about it. And for this case, my SSH client would be my terminal. So I will put my terminal right here. I'll click on that and I'll expand this. I'll make this bigger so you can see. Hopefully you can see. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to SSH. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do SSH space. Then I'm going to put the username of the server. As you can see, our username is, hold on one second. This is our username. Our username is Ubuntu right here. So I'm going to copy Ubuntu and I'm going to put Ubuntu right here. I'm going to put mention, then the IP address of the server. So if I go back here and I click on this and I put that IP address right here and I hit enter, this is not going to work, right? And I do yes. So this is technically not going to work, right? Because remember that when we created our instance, or when we were creating our instance, we specified that we wanted to use a key to log in, right? So wanted to use a key to log. So as you can see right here, it says permission denied, public key, right? So we have to, provide that key in order for us to log in. So the way you provide that key is you would do, first of all, let me do an LX. Don't worry about what LX is. And I just want to make sure that, I go where that key is. Remember that that key is right here on my desktop. So I have to go to my desktop. As you can see, this is my desktop right here. So if to go to your desktop or to go to download, maybe, your key can be under download or it can be on desktop. If you drag it to your desktop, you'll find it on your desktop. If you put it in download, you'll find it in download. So now do not worry about what all of this is. In my next video, I will explain all of this in detail. So what I want to do is I want to go to desktop. So in order to go there, I'll just do cd, then I'll do desktop right here and I'll hit enter. Then if I do LX means list. You will now see that if we look carefully, we should see that key right here. So this is that key right here called the Linux lab key, right? So and you can confirm by saying it here, the Linux lab key. So what we want to do now is that we want to SSH back. So we can still attempt to run this command like this, right? But still it's not going to work because we have to pass, that key in here. We have to provide that key. The fact that we've gone where that key is, so as you can see, the key is right here, doesn't mean that you can just use it. So you still have to, that key right there. So, and the way you do it is extremely simple and straightforward. So I'm going to do SSH, then I'm going to do SSH-I. I stands for identify. Then I'm going to provide that key, which is this one right here. So I'll copy this and I'm going to paste this in here and give it some space. Then I'll hit enter. Now it's going to say warning, unprotected private key file. That's fine. Come back here and you copy this. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about what this is in Linux. That's just to change file permission. Don't worry about it. I'll talk about it. Then you will paste that in here and you will hit enter. Then you will run this command one more time. So you can copy all of this, paste it right here, and you hit enter one more time. And boom. So as you can see, now we are inside of our, Ubuntu server, or we are inside of our server. So for example, here I can run commands like sudo app update, and you will see it will start updating the server, right? So give it some time. Nice. So as you can see, it's up to date. I can also do a couple of things. For example, I can type commands like, date. Boom, it's going to provide me with the date. And I can type, different commands like LX. I can type commands like pwd. Don't worry about what all these commands commands. I will talk about this command in our next video. So guys, that's how you create your AWS account, then you use that AWS account to launch your Linux server. And we're going to be using this Linux server to practice Linux. So in my next video, I will dive into what SSH is. I'll explain what SSH is, so that you have a better understanding of how to SSH. I'll also show you different SSH clients that you can use to to SSH. So now, before you leave, I want you to go back to AWS, click on instance, then right click on instance state. I want you to stop it. So come here, click on this, click on stop, and click on stop instance and refresh. As you can see, is stopping, and in less than 30 seconds this instance will stop. So guys, thank you guys for watching. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. See you in my next video. Bye.